Half a world away, President Biden made it clear in his State of the Union address last night that wars don't have to be fought just with missiles or tanks.
The United States Department of Justice is assembling a dedicated task force to go after the crimes of the Russian oligarchs. We're joining with European allies to find and seize their yachts, their luxury apartments, their private jets. We're coming for your ill-begotten gains.
You better believe they heard those words wherever they are with their ill-gotten gains. Before I go any further, I know that you have heard this word oligarch, right? More in the past week than probably the last 10 years. So let me just be really clear what the definition is, because a lot of people think a lot of different things. It is very simply a rich business leader with a great deal of political influence. It's simple. Oligarch. In Russia's case, they are sometimes thought of as Putin's board of directors. And how rich is very rich? It's very, 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 very rich. I want to take Roman Abramovich, just for starters. He's a rags to riches story in Russia, whose riches never would have happened without the close friendship of Vladimir Putin. And when I say riches, I mean simply unimaginable wealth. You know, even the super rich find his luxury toys to be simply jaw-dropping. The world's 1%. For them, a mega yacht is still a really, really tough goal. But Roman Abramovich has bragged of owning the world's largest, longest, most expensive, and most secure mega yacht. But he didn't just stop at one. He's got a fleet of them. A fleet of these ultra-luxurious and gobsmackingly massive vessels that just putter about the globe. We have these exclusive pictures for you tonight. And we got them just in the past couple of days from St. Martin in the Caribbean. That is his 650-foot luxury liner. It is called Eclipse, aptly named because anything that's near it gets eclipsed. If you're a fan of the show Below Deck, the boats you see on that show are child's play next to this behemoth. Eclipse cost somewhere around $1 billion, $1 billion to build and to trick out the way he wanted it. It's got 9 decks, 2 helicopter pads, and a helicopter hangar. It's said to have armored glass and an anti-ballistic missile defense system on it. Rumors abound that it has an anti-paparazzi radar installed that jams digital photography, but as you can see, our spy did not have any trouble getting these pictures and videos from Simpson Bay in St. Martin. And yes, that's digital photography. Just look at the size of the people. Look at them in that boat garage compared to the size of the yacht. If you look closely as well, you can see 3 smaller yachts that are on board this yacht. Boats that in their own right could cost around $1 million or more and be as long as 40 to 60 feet, quite out of reach for most of us. He's also got a 3-man submersible submarine on board. They say it's like an escape pod if he needs it. The yacht also features multiple swimming pools, one of which has a floor that rises up to the deck level so that it can turn into a dance floor for when the mood takes over. There are 24 guest cabins that can sleep 30 friends, each one with a 6-foot home theater and a jacuzzi. There is a nightclub, a hair salon, a movie theater, a conference room, a children's play center, a gym, a spa, a massage room, and then there is, of course, that toy garage at water level that houses all the fun vehicles that you could possibly need for fun in the blue water, like 20 jet skis on board and everything you need for a beach adventure. It takes anywhere between 60 and 100 crew members to operate the Eclipse. And the cost of that, you sitting down, roughly $40 million per year, just to keep the Eclipse afloat and running. It sails under the flag of Bermuda, which some say could complicate things when you're looking to make the case for seizing it. A lot of these Russian mega toys are held in shell companies, too, also making it tricky to chase them down. So the Eclipse, I said, is just one of Abramovich's yachts. He currently has at least 2 and possibly 3 mega yachts, and hence a new round of exclusive pictures that we got for you. Beautiful blue hull. Look at that thing. Stunning. Abramovich has bought and sold upwards of 7 of these yachts. There are rumors in the yacht world, and a local captain reported to us from St. Martin that Abramovich gifted this beauty, this blue-hulled yacht called Le Grand Bleu, to his friend and fellow oligarch Eugene Schwidler. Other reports say he lost the Grand Bleu in a bet. And then other reports actually say he sold it. But we're not sure because this man is so secretive. Regardless, the Grand Bleu was right there alongside the Eclipse just a couple days ago in these exclusive pictures from St. Martin. That Grand Bleu is 371 feet long, but you can see on board it carries a 73-foot sailing yacht, a sailboat, on its aft deck. You know, if that's not enough for you, it also carries a 68-foot motor yacht on board and 2 other sport boats and a landing craft to carry a 4x4 Land Rover. Like the Eclipse, it also has 2 helipads because, you know, one isn't enough. Might have a lot of guests. Speaking of guests, 20. It can house 20. Abramovich's other prized possession is a mega yacht called Solaris, which apparently right now is in Spain. Cost $610 million, rumored. And last summer, it was reported to be the world's most expensive mega yacht, even though it's smaller than the Eclipse. Solaris is just 460 feet, but it has 48 cabins across 8 decks, and it sleeps 60 crew members and 36 guests. Also has a state-of-the-art security system, including a radar-controlled missile detection system, bulletproof windows, and armored plates. Along with the obvious boring gym, sauna, and jacuzzi, and possibly a beauty salon, Solaris also has an outdoor beach club on its upper deck. It's unclear if Solaris is going to be headed for the safer waters of the Maldives or Montenegro, like several of the other oligarchs' yachts are steaming ahead to right now as we speak. And it's really unclear as to whether those places are even going to be safe to hide. Because, you know, the world seems to be on board and only a few nations aren't. So where do you sail your big fat boat to keep it? My next guests are well-versed on this glittery yet shadowy world. Hagar Chemali is a former Treasury Secretary, Treasury Department spokeswoman, and she now hosts this week's the weekly news roundup, Oh My World, on YouTube. And Michael Weiss is the news director of New Lines magazine and author of the upcoming book, History of Russian Military Intelligence. Welcome to both of you. Hagar, with your Treasury background, I just got to ask you, how hard is it to seize toys like this?
Well, first, its seizure is it's not easy, of course, but it is an effort led by the Department of Justice and the FBI, actually. The way this would work is you have the Treasury Department that would sanction these oligarchs, for example, and the way they do that is they have their own in-house intelligence shop. In fact, the U.S. Treasury Department is the only finance ministry in the world with its own intelligence shop, with analysts that receive intelligence and analyze it for the expressed purpose of disrupting and dismantling criminal financial networks. So they've been identifying these Russian oligarchs, obviously sanctioning them. The practical definition of a sanction is that if they have any assets in the United States, in U.S. jurisdiction, then they are frozen. And all U.S. persons, that means individuals and businesses, are unable to do business with them. So from there, the Department of Justice and the FBI would prepare legal cases against those individuals in order to seize their assets. And once they're seized, they are sold, or whatever it is, the assets go into a law enforcement slush fund to then finance future law enforcement efforts.
So, you know, Michael, I'll ask you this question because I hadn't really thought of it before. Hagar just said they're seized and they're usually sold or put into a slush fund. Are they ever just held as ransom to basically say, hey, Mr. Abramovich, if you want Eclipse back, you'd be best to change your boss's mind?
Well, yeah, I mean, you know, the U.S. government could basically do this and, you know, try to approach these oligarchs just as they would approach Russian intelligence officers or Russian government officials and say, if you flip, if you come work for us, maybe we'll let you have some of these toys and some of these assets back. So in other words, give us information, vital information about what's taking place inside Russia, maybe help us countermand Putin's aggressive behavior in Europe, and et cetera, et cetera. Sure, that's always an option. But look, you know, there are other mechanisms at play here. You know, I put out a thing on Twitter today. I've done a lot of investigative journalism into oligarchs' ill-gotten gains and where they end up spending it. And lo and behold, you know, they steal from the Russian people, but they like to shop in the West, right? So for instance, Le Grand Bleu, I did a whole report on this yacht. Why? Because one of the companies that Eugene Schvidler, who, as you mentioned, this yacht used to belong to Roman Abramovich, but his business partner, Eugene Schvidler, who, by the way, is an American citizen, which makes jurisdiction a little bit easier here, received this yacht either in a bet that was lost or it was gifted to him. He used one of the LLCs that was registered offshore. I can't remember which jurisdiction, probably Cyprus, because that's one of their favorites. He used an LLC through which he bought a Eurocopter, which is to say a helicopter that's parked on top of Le Grand Bleu, to finance a loan for the son of Queen Elizabeth II's former treasurer, Sir Michael Peat. Now, why did he do this? Well, the son was opening an investment account in the UK that sought to invest in Eurasian businesses, right? Now, I remember doing this report thinking, why is Queen Elizabeth's, I think that the official title is Keeper of the Privy Purse, why is this man's son taking money from a Russian oligarch who is accused by the Russian opposition, including Alexei Navalny, who is now sat in a penal colony in Russia? This is the reason these guys are so dangerous. It is not okay to describe them as simply billionaires or businessmen. They are more accurately referred to as boyars who serve the Tsar. I would call them plenipotentiaries of the Kremlin. They exist for one reason only, or I should say, they are allowed to have these toys and all of this money for one reason only. They must prosecute Russia's state interests abroad. They must peddle influence. They must co-opt Western institutions, Western businessmen. You should not make a distinction between them and any other official from the Russian government. If they're alive and if they're still billionaires, they're working for Putin.
So you bring up something that tweaked something that I read by Paul Krugman in a column. He said, oh, sure, if we want to actually effectuate sanctions, it means we have to face our own ugly corruption because we're all terribly, terribly intertwined in many different ways with these oligarchs. Go ahead, just comment on that.
I've been screaming that since I'm blue in the face for about 10 years now. The reason that Russia has been able to do all of these awful things, from forget about even invading Ukraine, which is its most recent atrocity, poisoning people with chemical weapons or nerve agents in the UK, blowing up ammunition depots or weapons manufacturing depots and factories in NATO member states such as Bulgaria and the Czech Republic, is because they have co-opted the West. They have seconded us. We have connived in their kleptocracy. And the only way to stop this, the only way to really isolate Putin and to make his life much more difficult and indeed miserable, is to get our own house in order. I mean, I can't tell you the number of times I've talked to U.S. government officials, British officials, who, I mean, in the United States, we have the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, which prevents Americans from not only bribing people on U.S. soil, but going abroad and accepting bribes from foreign officials, right? This act has not been enforced to the full letter of the law. We have the Foreign Agents Registration Act, which says if you're lobbying on behalf of foreign interests, particularly hostile foreign interests such as Russia's, you must register as a foreign agent. A lot of people simply don't do it, and they get away scot-free.
Thank you for watching. Click the red subscribe button below so you can get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.